Hello everybody, welcome to the Open Editorial Around the World, and hello to all of our pictures as well. Let me introduce you to all of our Google Hangout. We have Mohammed. Say hello, Mohammed.
Hello everyone.
We have Injira.
Hello.
You'll see Michael Hopper. You can see him, but you can't hear him unless he's desperate to say something. Dan Ming from our production team as well, from the stream. And then we also have Zainab. Say hello, Zainab.
Hi, everyone.
So on the stream, it's your show, it's our community show, and every now and again we like to just reach out to you and say, hey, have you got better ideas than we have? Let's go to Mohammed. You're in New York, Mohammed?
Yes.
I used to live in Brooklyn, I'm jealous. How's it doing?
It's raining this morning, but otherwise it's fine.
That's a tropical storm just going up the East Coast, just channeling one of my previous jobs as a meteorologist. So, Mohammed, what is your elevator pitch for the story that you think the stream should be doing about Africa?
I think the story that the stream should be doing is a story about Oromo identity in diaspora and also marginalization in Ethiopia, and in the challenge that Oromo immigrants and Oromo refugees are facing, not just in the Horn of African countries where they are forcibly being sent back to the same country that they already run away from, but also in the Middle East, where and also North Africa, where they are sort of caught between two wars. On the one hand, the uprising that people in North Africa, in places like Yemen, are doomed to change regimes, and you have these refugees who came in looking for safety, and then they sort of trapped between these issues. And also, if you take that...
Mohammed, just 1 second. I mean, the reason I love the stream is that sometimes there are stories and communities that I'm not familiar with. And I know you're talking about the Oromo community. Like, everybody knows exactly what you're talking about. And do you know the Oromo community?
Yes.
I know about them because they're in northern Kenya, but I don't know what they're facing.
All right.
So I'm Googling them right now.
All right. Okay. Let's start at the very beginning, Mohammed. Let's slow down, okay, and help us out who have no idea, because this is the beauty of the stream. It brings new communities into people's lives. So do basics. I'm a 10-year-old kid. This is the other side of the world. I've got no idea what you're talking about. Now start.
Great. Thank you for holding me down. The Oromo are the largest ethnic group in Ethiopia, about 45 to 50 million, depending on who you believe. And they are, among the oldest African groups who we, according to the Oromos, believe that we've invented democracy called the Gada system that long before the Magna Carta and all these fancy democratic ideals came forward, the Oromos elected and their leaders using a system of 8 years of regime change and so on and so forth. In Afan Oromo, the Oromo language is the third largest, most widely spoken in the continent of Africa, yet as you've gathered from a quick poll there, even Africans don't know this story because Ethiopia has been projected to the outside world in a way that it is a unified country, and oftentimes as a Christian island in the sea of pagans, which is the Oromo religion, I believe in one God. In more recently...
Okay, so Mohammed, why are they refugees then? So you've given us a little introduction, so now we've got a better idea. Why is there an issue with where they are?
So basically in the last 100 years, the Oromos have been excluded from political power, economic power, and their language and social lives have been restricted in the country. So in the 1990s, when the communist regime in Ethiopia was overthrown, a coalition government was put together, and apparently at the 1992 election, the election was reached and the Oromo coalition pulled out of the transitional government, and that led to the largest exodus of Oromo immigrants out of Ethiopia. And today, the largest Ethiopian diaspora are Oromos, and more recently, because this repression continues and the descent in Ethiopia, as you've done in previous stream shows is not tolerated, but even more so if you stretch that, Oromo descent is not tolerated because, as I said, the third largest African language, there's not one independent newspaper in that language.
Okay,
anywhere.
So Mohammed, tell me your program idea in one sentence. This program, today on the stream, we talk about
Oromo people identity, marginalization, diaspora.
Okay. All right, so stop there. Then let me bring in Zainab. Zainab, are you in the least bit interested in this topic yet?
Yes, it does sound very interesting.
And again, you don't have to be polite because like this is really the testing round. We should be really honest with each other.
Okay. Okay. I just think that I need to know a bit more about it. It's something I'm not really familiar with at all. And it does sound very fascinating, but I think I would need more information about it.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
And I had to stop Mohammed, so he's got a lot more information. I didn't want to turn this into a lecture about the Oromo community. Andrea, I know you always speak your mind, so go on.
It sounds like something that would need some background information, and the fact that Mohammed had to spend the last 5 minutes doing so means we have to establish background somehow. I mean, what's interesting is that it's the largest ethnic community in Ethiopia. I had no idea about that. And I think a couple of questions I'd have to Mohammed. A, are the Oromo nomads? Is that what part of the problem they're facing? Are they a nomadic community? And how do you paint it to a global context for every person in any corner of the world to understand the struggle that has been? I think that then that would rein in closer towards trying to figure out why we should empathize with that kind of story, I think.
Yeah, that's great. You kind of took those questions right out of my head. Mohammed, just answer those briefly.
First, briefly, the Oromos, there are groups of Oromo ethnic tribes that are still follow nomadic way of lives, but not all. I mean, they occupy half of the country. So they are in highland, lowland, and all around the country. And as far as how you sort of, I think the meeting is a clear example why I think the stream should do this story, because this is a story nobody is covering, and the reason that you did not know about Oromo, or a lot of people don't know about Oromo, is because it's not receiving a coverage, and the small efforts that we're doing with All Pride and other blogs, it just gets it doesn't get out there. And I think and I'm just emphasizing that. And how do we make it make a global audience understand that? I think we can start by demystifying what Ethiopia is and what it sort of projects to the outside world. In an average person in Washington, D.C., where you guys are based, if you say Ethiopian food or Ethiopian restaurant,
oh my God, really, yes, so many places to eat. Oh my goodness.
You really can't go.
Wow.
Okay,
now let's do it. We can just hang out and do restaurants. No, do you know what the best thing you said to me that made me feel like it could work for the stream was that nobody knows much about this community.
Right.
And that's, isn't that when the stream manages to set up a story where you go, I had no idea about that. I love those programs. So that's the challenge that, Mohammed, you've presented for us, because even you describing it, that took 5 minutes. That's a quarter of our show gone right there with a setup. And that's a lot of time before you even started talking. So for me, it seemed to me like, as a journalist, I'm thinking, this is a documentary, this is not a discussion. Because how do you discuss something that you then have to tell everybody about this community and need to do so much setup? But the stream has done things like this before, so it's giving us a lot of food for thought and a challenge to how we even do that.
Femi, we actually did get other tweets from people about this topic. I pulled one up. Someone wrote, can you not hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Go on.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Someone wrote, what about the untold story of Oromo political prisoners in Ethiopia?
Ooh.
Wow.
So I wonder, how would, does Mohammed think we could find a former political prisoner?
I mean, you can find 100 political prisoners, and you can start with me if you are looking for a political prisoner. In just to sort of go back to what Femi was saying earlier, and
Mohammed, you can't say you're a former political prisoner and then not tell your story.
You know?
Well, this is really not about me, and I think this story is much larger. And Ethiopia has the largest number of Oromos, but also the largest number of Oromo political prisoners languishing in jails around that country today, and estimated at 25,000 as we speak. In just to give you a very good example, a former Ethiopian defense minister who was a political prisoner himself once said there are so many Oromo prisoners in Ethiopian jails that Ethiopian prisons speak Oromo language. So this is a very big issue in
Do you know what? I think that might be the stream story, not the Oromo community, because that's a whole history. I mean, you went back 100 years. When you said 100 years, I was like, man, that's a long time. But Oromo political prisoners, that's a story that we can get bang straight into. A little bit of an introduction and then talk about it. And also there were going to be political refugees. And that to me feels like that's manageable in half an hour. But I'm just like, I'm just riffing here.
I just have a question though.
Yeah, go on.
Can I come in? Yeah, would there be people willing to speak? Like the former political prisoners, okay, good and fine, you're in New York, and I understand you will be able to speak, but then people within Ethiopia.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just...
That's the tricky thing. I think it's a show that might need some time to set up, and it's always difficult when you're talking about something that a country might not be very comfortable about having aired. And then we have it when we talk about places like Iran or China. It's difficult because we don't always have access, and so that's going to be quite challenging. And sometimes it means that we have to talk to the diaspora other than what's happening in country. But if we can get in country, or even blogs, or social media can get into a lot of places. That's right. Zainab, you make a really obvious and valid point. But the political prisoner story is for me is that's the one where I'm like, okay, I get it. We could do that.
If I may just come in here, I think people are dying to be heard. We are saying here's out, and there's this story that nobody is hearing. And just last night at 4 a.m., I was on the phone in Egypt with the refugees. And we put out a story about Oromo refugees who were beaten and refused medical service and police services, just mostly because they were taking us Ethiopian nationals with all issue over Nile, and you can find hundreds from Canada, Australia, UK, Norway. They're everywhere. So you can easily get a lot of people to talk about issues and challenges in that country, but also their personal stories of being in jail and having families and friends still in jail.
And also, I mean, what's the point of an Ethiopian ambassador if they don't come onto programs to talk about issues in their country? That's what an ambassador does, right? So why would they not want to talk about this? So Zainab, I don't think it would stop us from having the conversation. But you're right, it's tricky. Yeah, it's tricky.
But yeah, that's good.
And it's the story that the Ethiopian ambassador would not want you to know. And if the Ethiopian ambassador comes on the show today, he would tell you that Ethiopia is fine in democracy, there is free press, in those things, there are no political prisoners. That's what they would say. But the
isn't that what makes the discussion very, very exciting?
Exactly.
I think so.
Right?
Okay. I think so.
Okay, I think you've got us all convinced now.
By the ruling party.
Okay, so Jira, I'm just curious, are you Oromo first or Ethiopian first?
I am an Oromo first, because to me, Ethiopia, first Ethiopia is imposed on me. The second important point is that because we are forced to denounce our identity.
We are Oromo first. Thank you.
Namoota tokko biyya kanatti maal naan jedhan ani bar wal looqan jedhe wallo afaan kana eessa fidde eessa baratte wal naan jedhu jira beeka.
amma dura Oromoo ta'uu qofaa miti har'a Oromoo kuma sagalii ibsa gara fuulduraatti socho'aa qinaayaa malee gadi sabii walitti dhaabaka malee isin tajaajilurra uummata biyyaa dhaabbachuurra Itoophiyaan yoo Ameerikaan dhuftee sii fudhatanaan jetteen barbaadu jaa Oromummaa jennii boora isin boora.
Oromiyaa Media Network Eebuu miidiyaa walabaa uummata Oromoo guutuuf yaalii gama hundaan taasisaa turetti of kaleeraa baga gammaddan baga gamman.
Gaaffii mirgaa dhugoomsuuf dhamaatiin gama hundaan taasifamaa ture akka laayyootti kan ilaalamu miti. Bu'urri of kaltii keenyaa karaa dhugaa waan qabanneef eeyyeen miidiyaa walabaa akkanaa qabaachuun mirga uummataati mirga sarbamee jiru.
Dhugaa uummata keenyaa qabannee odeeffannoo dhugaa fi madaalawaa akkasumas barsiisaaf bashannansiisaa ta'an isin biraan ga'uuf qophii keenya xumurree jirraa ammas baga gammaddan.
Oromiyaa Miidiyaa Neetwoork dhimmoota hawaasaa, siyaasa, dinagdee fi odeeffannoo waayitawaa ta'an kallattiin televiziyoonii, raadiyoo fi marsaalee intarneetiin uummata keenya biyya keessaaf hambaa jiraniif tamsaasuudhaaf dhaabbata walabaa kan seeraan biyya Ameerikaa keessatti hundeeffamedha.
Oromiyaa Media Network kan uummataati uummataan hundeeffame uummatas tajaajila. Qophiileen keenyas afaan Oromoo, afaan Amaaraatii fi afaan Ingiliziin isin biraan geenya.
Tajaajilli dhaabbata keenyaa kan gidduu galeeffatee ogummaa gaazexeessummaadha. Yoomiyyuu taanaan ilaalcha siyaasaa gosaaf amantii kamiifuu hin loogu. Galmi keenya guddaan uummata sagalee hin qabneef sagalee ta'udha.
Egaa Oromiyaa Media Network hundeeffameera. Jiraachuuf ammoo hirmaannaa lammii Oromoo fi firoottan Oromoo mara gaafata. Waliigalan alaagalan akkuma jedhamu miidiyaa sabaa kana utubuun walitti dhufeenya saba keenyaa gaafata.
Kanaaf unka miseensummaa guutuunis ta'ee karaa biraatiin gumaachuu akka dandeessan akkasumas yoo baruu barbaaddan marsaa intarneetii keenya Oromiyaa Media Network daawwadhaa.
Oromiyaa
Media Network.